Thank you for all the attendees that have joined us so far. We will begin the webinar in a few minutes. We're going to let more people join a little bit, and then we'll be right with you. Thank you for being on time, and yeah, hope you enjoy the show. Again, thank you for everyone for joining us. Today is going to be a very exciting day. We'll start with brief welcoming remarks, and followed by a very engaging discussion between our panelists, and hopefully a very interactive session with our attendees. You'll have a moment to ask your respective questions, attendees in particular, in the Q&A box underneath, and the chat box as well. If you feel that it's necessary, there'll be time at the end of the discussion for questions and answers. There'll be a Q&A session. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the show. We will begin in a few minutes. Just to clarify, can all the panelists hear me? Is everything okay on your end?
Yeah, sure. On my side, I can hear you well.
Thank you.
I said it is very excellent. You sound really clear.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. You sound really clear too. That's good as well. So again, just to put it out there, we'll do kind of random introductions a little bit, starting from, I don't know, let's say Robert, then followed by Chris, then Lonzen, then Esperance. And it'll be like very brief 1-minute introductions before we kickstart everything, so that our viewers, our attendees can know who you are, get a little bit familiar with everybody before we kickstart this conversation. We're gonna wait for there to be a little bit more people that join the call before we fully begin. And again, thank you everybody who has already joined the call. Thank you for being on time. And we shall again begin in just a couple of minutes, just to give people time to log on a little bit. Perfect. I think we can start. Welcome, everybody. This is the East African Youth Hub Live Talk. And thank you, everybody, for making it. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being here with us. We're about to talk about everything that pertains to youth involvement, women empowerment, ranging from topics from education to employment, to getting involved in projects, to everything that you might be asking yourselves. This is brought to you by SYD, Signboard of Youth Destiny, which strives to create leaders and citizens of tomorrow through projects like, but not limited to projects like this one. So to give us our welcoming remarks, I invite the SYD president, Kisa Loic, to take the floor.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? All right, yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate, first and foremost, the presence of each of you. It's a great pleasure, and it is so empowering to have you with us on behalf of our attendees. It is going to be a great opportunity and another chance for them to rethink with you guys. I think as SYD, on behalf of SYD, we've started a journey to start uniting Africans, especially youth, especially the youth, through different programs like this one. One called Africa's One and another called East African Youth Hub, like this one we are in. So It is a step that we are taking to try and push to unite Africans, as I said, especially youth, because we are the future. Mainly pointing to the East African Youth Hub. This is an initiative we have had to bring together East Africans and Africans as well under one umbrella of transformation. We want to talk about the reality. We want to share the experience. We want to analyze and know where we are coming from and where we are now and where we are going. We want to see who are we as youth in the transformation of our continent in 5 or 10 years coming. So this is the main reason why we are here with such great people. Many of them, they are influencers. I thank each of you for joining us. We have streamed this on live on Facebook for us to reach the maximum attendees. I hope we want to inspire as many young people as possible, and this is why we are here. I hope it is going to be more effective and impactful for each and everyone. Thank you so much, and you are welcome.
Thank you very much for these wonderful welcoming remarks. And before you start talking about any other topic, we're going to introduce our dear panelists. How about we start with Robert?
Okay. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Thank you so much for the great opportunity given me. My name is Robert Mugabo. I'm a student at African Leadership University. It's a pleasure to be part of such an insightful conversation, and I'm looking forward to learn a lot from you all. As I've shared it to my social media platforms this morning, yes, East Africa community should mainly be youth-driven community because I think this can be only possible if we accept we the youth to be part of the solution and realize the community goals first and try to exploit the shared opportunities for the best and benefits of the East African dwellers or community members. Thank you so much. I'm really proud to be part of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. How about we move on to Chris?
Thank you so much, Victor. As you mentioned it, my name is Chris Mulisa. I'm so privileged to see that when you plant a little seed, it can yield in some years and start seeing the results. I'm so proud to see what Loic and the friends are doing right now through our small impact that we cause in the community of the transformation of the mind. So I serve with Edify as a transformation training officer. I lead that team as Christian Transformation and Training Officer. So I lead a team of a couple of young people that are committed to do the transformation of young kids from their young generation up to the level where they can take their decisions. So I'm so honored to be part of this conversation. So Edify generally works in about 11 countries, and I think this gives an opportunity to speak to all African brothers and sisters because we are in about 7 countries in Africa. So we are in Ghana, we are in Uganda, we are in Ethiopia, Liberia, Burkina Faso, Sierra Leone. So we're in East Africa and we are yet to grow. It's actually because of the COVID. We could have hit our neighbors, Burundi. So we get an opportunity to interact with all those young people from the region. So I'm glad to be part of you. I don't want to take much of the time in introduction, but I'm happy to learn with everybody here because, learning is a process and, changing is personal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We hear from Esperance.
Thank you so much. I hope you can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Esperance Chantal. I am from Kenya. Trying to stay as a youth in Kenya. It's to being in Africa. I'm social media master. And open for that. So basically, take the place definitely need to, make our state and make the change. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. How about we move on to Ms. Biong?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
My name is Achai Biong Mulisa. I'm from South Sudan. I'm a medical student and I'm the founder of Power Girl Association in South Sudan. Thank you so much for having me, and I look forward to hearing your views and learning so much.
Thank you very much. We might be facing a little bit of technical difficulties along the way, but we shall still try to keep it moving as fast as possible. So how about we kick it off with a discussion on the biggest problems that are facing East Africa. If we can have the question being, what are the biggest issues that East Africa is facing right now, in your opinions?
Hi, Shaka. Do you want to introduce Dr. Lonzen?
Yes. Dr. Lonzen will be with us in a short while, and once he properly joins, we shall introduce him as well. But just to get everybody thinking a little bit about the issue that we're going to talk about, being the biggest issues of East Africa, I'd like to bring that up. A poll is going to appear in front of you, which I'm launching right now, which you can answer to. You can try to contribute. What are the biggest problems East Africa is facing? There's education, gender biases, unemployment, lack of accountability, lack of involvement, all of the above, or none of the above, or other. And then we can start discussing it. So while we are thinking about this question that was posed, Dr.Lonzen Rugira is an applied policy researcher and commentator on public affairs in the Great Lakes regions of Africa. He is with us, and we're very happy to have him with us in this discussion. So thank you very much for showing us the love.
Yeah.
And for
Thank
being
you.
here
Thank you
with
for
us.
inviting. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So the poll has been up. I see 13 out of 20 people have voted. How about we start talking about what we think are the biggest issues in Africa? I'll just call out people at random. So how about we start with you, Chris? What do you think are the biggest problems that East Africa is facing?
I think, thank you so much, brothers and sisters on this continent. I'll start with really few things that I think that we lack. I think we, as young people on the continent, we lack a little bit of inadequate training with the relevant skills that are ready to face the challenge of the 21st century. I'll give an example. My friends who are here in Rwanda, basically when most of our friends, the likes of you, Shaka, when they come back home, most of them you find that because they have acquired the relevant education and skill that is needed, hey, they are easily placed into the office. They're like, we can't lose him. And I think that's something that we are still struggling with at the continent level. It doesn't mean that we don't have really good institutions that can give enough really skills, but I think it is either way. But the most important thing that I think we lack a little bit of the adequate training and relevant skills that is needed. Of course, we all can't ignore the fact of the unemployment rate that we're all facing as young Africans, but still, I strongly believe that when we get the relevant skill that is needed, we can, fight this. I call it the disease of unemployment. Yeah, I'll stop from there so that we give time to others. But I think the last point that on the question that you brought, which is accountability, lack of accountability. I'll give an example. As a person who will, I think I stayed in this region of East Africa, as we're talking about the East African, youth hub. I think I lived in Uganda. I lived here. I lived in Burundi. So I have realized through that experience, and at least I've been to all the East African countries, the young people, when they choose to be accountable for one another, there's a lot that can be changed. When I was in Burundi in 2015, I chose determined to mentor young people, about 5 of them. These are the guys that were from, the lowest background of their life. And they were at college, but without hope. It's one thing to go to college, but also it's another thing to think outside the box. And we stayed with them for about 3 years. We stayed in the same house with mentorship program that I was working on. But I'm telling you, when you're accountable for one another, you end up, raising your esteem and becoming a very important person to the community. And I'm telling you, as we talk right now, these people are taking big positions in their country, and I'm so proud of them. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. How about you from Esperance?
In my perspective, I all of the above, and by all I mean employment, by all I mean, lack of education, gender parity, all that are issues in Africa. But for me, one that actually stands out is development. There are many opportunities out there which actually affect me, but we tend to be sidelined. For example, government in Africa think for the age, but the truth and the fact is that actually there's really no way we're gonna learn how these things, come into play. There's really no way if you don't give a youth the skill, they never know that it's actually a crucial matter. I find that most of the time, some conversations that are crucial to us, for example, corruption, for example, matters, financial security, they are all issues we face. But then the things that are not mentioned to people from a young expected to be mature enough, they really believe bring them to the conversation. Lots of them don't understand the importance of taking part and being part of the entire scenario, and hence we need to make sure we include young people in every conversation. We need to identify which areas and sectors require full involvement. One that stands out is participatory governance, participatory budgeting. Crucial sector every economic aspect. And that is from the onset of the project, so that they can know how to go about it, they can understand good there, and not just living for the old who have been there for years. Really don't make a change because they are there for the money. We would be there for the character. So we should be professional and treat every step to make the change.
Thank you very much. And that point that you brought up about involvement is I think very essential, that we are really going to pinpoint and talk mostly about later on in this discussion. But going on, can we hear from Achai?
Okay, I'm going to base it on South Sudan because that's where most of research has been. One of the major problems we have in South Sudan is the girl child education and early child marriages, and that affects the maternal and child health sector because we have so many deaths due to girls being underage, undergoing labor and situations like that, which is something we would have to address, because if we educate the girls, then they'd know that there's a right time or there's a perfect time to have kids and get married. And if we educated them, then they would know that with educated girls, there is a better economy at hand and every other aspect is better because educated women tend to raise children that fall sick less often due to hygiene and all the aspects that they get to learn. Another aspect is our educational system. I think we need to educate our youth to be innovative, not people that will go through school and look for a job. We need to raise youth that will go through school and come up with an innovation that will not only impact Africa, but the world at large. So if we can educate our youth that it's not all about going to school and looking for a job, but going to school and using your education to make a difference in your nation, in your continent, it would be much better.
Thank you very much for that. If we could hear from Robert.
Thank you so much. I would not take much time because most of the points were talked about, but I'll stick on the problem of implementation of some of the strategic policies and treaties that are being signed. There is still that gap between the policies that are signed and the way they are implemented. I would say that, and also most of our leaders are not accountable for what they are doing today. Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Thank you very much. So very good points about implementation and of policies that are being put in place and accountability of political officials and the government at large. Very important points. And if we could hear of Dr.Lonzen on this matter.
All right. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Loud and clear.
Yes. Yeah. So I think when we're talking about East Africa, I think we decided to expand it a little bit to talk about Eastern Africa in the way that I think we involve the other Ethiopia, Somalia, and so on. Now, I think that the biggest problems, of course, in addition to unemployment, as people talked about, the issues of accountability in much of East Africa. But I think, and I'm going to come back to the youth, but first I want to talk about this challenge of accountability and even unemployment being a consequence of a failure of accountability. I believe that when you look at most of the countries in East Africa, the issue, especially of corruption, of financial mismanagement, and so on. So I think the main problem is that we have countries without a clear purpose of existence. So I think that once we, and this is what the young people will be able to bring when their time comes, and I think that very soon, most of the young people will be in leadership positions where they will be making hopefully different decisions than the people who are making decisions today are making. And for them to do that, however, they need to start now. They need to start understanding or shaping the purpose. They need to start shaping the purpose when they're still in their youth, and that they need to see that they are creating a community of values, and a community that has a meaningful existence at the core of it. So I think if you look at all these East African countries, very few countries have a clear purpose of why, very few, where the leadership is clear about its existence. And because of that, the consequences are very many. If you can start from corruption to unemployment to women, status of women, and so there are so many consequences that are derived from this failure to have a meaningful purpose for leadership. And the young people, this is where I want going forward to talk about what values do young people bring on the table that are different.
Well, thank you very much, Lonzen. That's very powerful. I think before we go any further, I've shared the results of the poll, and it seems like our audience, although the audience is a bit split, you can see that there's a domination in education and unemployment. But in general, it feels like we sort of are talking about very similar things, from clear purpose of existence to involvement to innovation to accountability. We can see that we're referring to very similar things. But how exactly do young people need to focus their energies? What exactly do they need? What exactly do we need to do? Is it a question of mindset? Is it a question of finding motivation? Is it a question of, let's say, the government not, let's say, putting enough emphasis on young people? How do we build ourselves as young people to be able to tackle these issues? And where should we start? And the floor is open to whoever would like to tackle such an issue, this question.
I wanted to leave out to the young people to be the first to respond.
Okay, so Achai, are you comfortable responding at this time?
Okay. I would say that as young people, because we all know the challenges our communities face, and if we can have every young person make the mindset, give themselves a mindset that I will tackle this challenge and I will tackle this challenge, then we'd realize that by the end of a particular period of time, most of the challenges have been tackled. So I think we need to stand up as youth. You need to take the load upon your shoulder, that this is the issue that I'm going to handle. This is what I'm going to campaign for. This is what I'm going to stand for. And you realize that when you stand, there'll be many that will join you and support you, and you'll be able to inspire many to stand for something different. So if you're inspiring as a youth, you will inspire many more to stand with you. You can't wait for the government, because if we wait, then we'd be waiting for the Karamajongs to develop, like they say. But if you start, you will reach somewhere. The most important thing is starting as a young person. Start where you are at the level you can start, and you will get somewhere.
Thank you very much for that. So I think what you've basically brought out is it's very much an individual effort that turns into a communal responsibility.
Yes.
It's very much an individual resonance that is supposed to travel like a wave to other people and inspire further action. but it has to start from oneself.
You, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much for that. Can we move on to, let's say, Robert?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I'll go back to something you talked about, and other speakers, about the mindset. I think time this is where it's mostly needed to have a growth mindset, and I would argue for my fellow youth to have a creative and innovative mind. This is possible only, I think, when we say yes to proactive attitude. We should not wait for anyone. I think we should not wait for anybody to determine what we need, because we know what we need and we know how we can get it. Maybe it will require some time, but it's upon us to believe in the power that we have, and struggle to study problems. I have always loved to study problems. Like, if you study problems, that is the only way you are going to get solutions. And we still have this possible time to test some of the solutions that we have. And through this testing, we will surely have a brighter future, if I may say. So it all goes about having a growth mindset. We should not be fixed, as Lonzen said. We should have a clear purpose of existence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I think the more we talk about it, it amplifies the importance of that mindset, and how crucial it is for one person to have that within themselves. Because it's very easy for us to say, oh, somebody else will fix our problems, or it's upon somebody else. But the moment it becomes an individual issue instead of a societal, very abstract problem, that's when it becomes real, and so do the solutions become real. Thank you very much for that. Robert, could we move to Esperance, maybe?
Yes, thank you so much. So in my perspective, I really like what Robert mentioned about, if we all think that the next person will do it, that makes a lot of sense. In my perspective, I think youth, especially in Africa, have a rigid and closed mindset. We feel like, I want to do this and I want to do this alone. So for those who've opened up their minds, they kind of hold back to their solutions and their ideas. So we have this individual perspective. But I feel like the best thing to do is have this open-mindedness and be open towards sharing solutions, because the issues we face can't really be solved by one person. So the way we could actually go about this is by, I have an idea, share it to the next person, then hold hands together and go about, bringing a solution. Most things we face really need that joint collaboration. First thing is to probably identify and plug in existing gaps, because there are very many things that we face that haven't been solved yet. So we have the brains, we can identify and plug in existing gaps, then mobilize resources, because as an individual, you can't get across through all sectors. So having that focus, that true line, we really want to get everything solved, but we can't beat all that. So for instance, you stay in line with an environment, they'll go for it, they'll do the best. Someone else is doing it. We all can't be everywhere. So the moment I take my stand, you take your stand, we all do this, it's going to be a collective effort. To learn for confidence problems that all key actors are facing. Another thing, actually, is raising awareness. Some of these things we do encounter. Someone is in the village somewhere who would have a solution but isn't aware, due to obvious reasons such as lack of internet issues. Right now with COVID-19, everything has gone virtual, and not everyone has access to those things. So people at home, they could have solutions, and we don't have the means, we don't have the resources. So making a collective effort to actually really, really help get through that. For me, I live with a mantra: work locally. Think locally, work globally, because you really can't implement the entire globe, but you can do something from your grassroots level. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, and thank you for emphasizing the power of a collective, the power of a front, and the need for people to set aside individual gain or personal gain to be able to actually make an impact. Because as much as what we've talked about is, how individually a youth has to be able to empower themselves and be able to make a change or whatever, it's very important that there's an understanding that a common goal means many people coming together and working together, and that's very integral. Thank you very much for bringing that up. And could we move on to Mr. Lonzen?
Yeah, thank you. I want to actually jump on what Esperance is talking about there. The sense of community, and most of these problems that we identified as taking place in East Africa, even in Africa, or even globally beyond Africa, the main driver of this has been the collapse of community. So this sense of individualism that got out of hand, and so when you talk about corruption and embezzlement and the failure of having a purpose of the state and so on, all this is because of people have conceptualized or internalized individual success. And when you have individual success, the way it has been defined, it has collapsed the sense of community, the sense of belonging to something greater, and the sense of protecting something beyond yourself. So people find themselves without protection individually because they protected the individual thing and they collapsed the community thing. And so the young people, it is how they will define success that will lead to change. So if you define success as entirely individual and you have no sense of community, then that's the kind of definition that's going to make the problem worse. But if we have an emergence of young people that is able to define success as intrinsically linked to the community, then we can begin to solve some of these problems. Thanks.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for clarifying and bringing up the fact that regardless of what you imagine success is going to be or the solution is going to be, it has to be intrinsically communal for there to be impact that is felt in the community. Thank you very much for that. How about we move on to Chris?
I always want to always bring the solution to what people really would understand clearly. For us to really be able to start solving some of these problems that we have, look at Loic, who is the president of this, SYD. I mean, we as Edify, we train about more than 480 schools in the country. And of course, I'm not talking about, continent-wise and global-wise. But look at the way he takes up the initiative and say, hey, man, I can't keep what I learned. I need to give it back to the community, So it is now seems to be me alone, but thinking beyond, thinking outside the box. How can it transform these young people? Out of the sense that, hey, we taught the normal thing that other people really could, be able to access the 7 habits of highly effective people. How can it be effective? And he puts it to another level of understanding. So wow, this actually can transform me and transform other young people of my generation. And he starts up something like this that all of us are interested to come on board and share. So why do I bring this? It's because it has to be any car to drive, it has to have an engine, not until we get the engine that are going to move these problems that are ready to say, hey, enough is enough. We should stop thinking the way we are thinking and think like Dr.Lonzen mentioned it, that start thinking communal way. When you start, discovering the problem and actually feel the burden of it and say, how can we move it? I think it's Chai who mentioned it, that you understand the problem, and or Chantal, that you understand that I can't do this alone. I need my brother from the other, border. I need the other brother from the other continent for us to, to come together. But always there has to be, that engine that has to drive this, great ideas that we all have, great ideas that can bring us together on the table like this. So unless we start thinking like that, changing our mindset of how can we move outside our comfort zone and start taking up the challenges, this conversation are going to continue. But we thank God for young people like, Loic and the rest of the young people that are coming up, with this, burden of, how can we come together as East African young people and continent young people, to solve some of the small problems, Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I think in general, it's like we're sort of coming together and bringing up the ideas of mindset and different facets of mindset, with regards to, we've started with individual, we've gone into communal, and I wanted to guide the direction a little bit towards Achai, and how to a more, let's say, practical view of things. Because you said that, Achai, I would say you said that you were a medical student, but you also started Power Girl, the organization Power Girl.
Yes, sir.
So if you could talk a bit about what that means to you as a youth, to be able to do two things, because for most people they picture their lives as a monodirectional entity where you do one job and that is the end of the world, but you're balancing two things. If you could talk a bit more about that.
Thank you so much. I think one important aspect as a leader you need to learn is investing in your personality and your character. Though we're talking about corruption and all of that, it's because the leaders have no moral standing. If you have a moral standing, there are some things you won't be able to go and do. When I started the Power Girl Association, we identified the challenge as a group where there's gender abuse, education system does not support the girl child and things like that. And so we come together and we're like, let's start the initiative and raise many that will join us to create the awareness of why is it important to educate the girl child? Why is it important to push the girl child to a particular place that she should be at? And why is it important to delay their marriages a little bit so that they can be able to do more with their lives? And like Chantal said, you can't do it alone. So when you invest in yourself as a person and in your character, and you're able to pass that investment from your character to someone else, and someone else will pass it on to someone else, and you find yourself, because you've invested in your character, you've raised a team with the kind of qualities that you would aspire African leaders to be. So that's how we started off, and we started creating the awareness, having the back to school girl child campaigns, and we started seeing progress, and many joined us along the way. And that's how Girl Child started. With medical school, of course, it's a bit hectic to do this, but because you've passed on the investment to other people, you have other people passing on the same terms of your it, because you are the one who raised them, they're passing it on, and it helps you with the teamwork.
Very beautiful. Thank you very much for that account. And I wanted to raise this question because a lot of the times when these conversations take place, it seems as though a lot of these things are surreal. Many youths feel like they can't relate, or it's not very practical, or I also have my own things that I want to achieve. I don't, like, I have my own dreams or aspirations. And if we could talk a little bit about how those two weave into each other, how those two are supposed to work together, or how they're supposed to live in one being together. If we could talk a little bit more about that.
I
Mhm.
someone once said that a poor man is the kind of man who thinks about him and himself, does not go beyond his world. So if you are a wealthy person, you've got to go beyond your world. You have your dreams, but your dreams can extend to beyond yourself, beyond your family, beyond your surrounding. If your dreams can go beyond you as an individual, then you have a wealthy mindset. But if you are focusing on yourself, and that's a very poor kind of mindset, I would say. So I would say it's possible to have dreams and visions for yourself, but it's also possible to make your dreams and your visions go beyond yourself.
Thank you very much for that. Do you have anything to say, Chris, about this matter?
Thank you. As my brothers and sisters are saying, really, this is, if we were to solve this challenge of our continent, I always, and as I started saying it, I always want to bring it to the language all Africans understand. We all face same problems. I'll give a practical example. At least most of young Africans of our age, they face a problem of either you have a problem in your family, you are not able to get good education because of your stepmom and your stepbrothers are hating you, and because of that, you can't communicate to one another. And those problems, you'll find them in Nigeria, you find them in Ghana, you find them in Rwanda, you find them, I mean, practically, when you say, hey, I am going to move on and start things that are going to transform me and transform my family to come, then you start facing problems of your stepbrothers. They start hating you because, they want you to, breastfeed them, which you can't, So when we are trying to talk about the African challenges, let's at least not try to bring the practical examples that we all know, that at least my brother in the door has faced it. And then how did they come out and solve this problem? Because if we are to solve the problems, we need to start from, the community level, personal level, then you go to the family level, the community level. That's when we can think. I mean, I love this saying that we all know, that if we want to cause change for 3 months, we are going to plant beans, and if you want for 10 years, we are going to plant trees. But it's for life. We want to invest in people. So how do we invest in ourselves to make sure that we are the salt that at least people taste? It is when you start denying yourself, because you can't be the same person who wants to be a businessman in the future and be the person who can't even learn the principle of saving out of $100. You want to eat all of it when you earn it. Those small examples will help us to get to the bigger stock market. If you want to be business, you can't start from the stock market, because our young people now, we are driven by what we are seeing in the West, other than starting from the small principles that we need to do, locally, and then we can get there. I'll give an example. If we want to, hey, how do we, change this youth of Rwanda? And again, I want to applaud our country. They have invested a lot in transforming our young people, in helping them. But again, the government will never, run after you if you are going to be a drug dealer. They will arrest you. because the government has given an opportunity, and we know that most of the things that are killing our young people is the drugs, and you can't be the person who is going to transform your community and be the same person who drinks throughout the night. So the change we want to see, it needs to start from us. Which information do you feed on? And I know, I'll give an example. Loic might have invited so many to get an opportunity to hear from these, incredible people that have invested their life in other people. And they were like, what are we going to learn? And most of the things that we are facing is we can't learn from our elders. We think that, we are beyond them. We can't learn from them because they are not, of our era. We are a .com generation. So those things, and yet those elders have got a lot, to pass on to us to be able to uphold our community's dignity. Thank you. I think I diverted a little bit, but it was really important for me to air it out. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for that. And if we could hear a little bit about this from Lonzen.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I think that one of the things that mistakes that we make when we talk about the youth, I think sometimes we actually almost always we define youth by age, and I think we needed to define youth by a different value system. And it means that if you're a youth and you're still preoccupied by ethnicity, that you're going to deny someone who belongs to another ethnicity an opportunity, you're not a youth. You are a very old conservative person. Whether you may be 20 years old, you are not a youth. So if you're a youth and you are placed in a position of leadership and you steal money, you're not a youth because you're very conservative, So if you're a youth and you sexually abuse your subordinate, you are not a youth. You are a very conservative old person. If you are a youth who you understand? So we need to define usefulness by a value system, by a new value system. And this value system is what will challenge people at the individual level to act differently. And this is what will change our societies. So if you're a youth and you think you need to enrich yourself to be the richest person in the community by stealing public resources, you're not a youth. You're a very old, conservative person. So the new youth, the youth have to build a new youth. So we need to stop defining youth by age. We need to define youth by values, by different values than the older generation. And so we need to define youth by purpose. And we need to define youth differently. And if you behave the way the generation that you are replacing behaves, you're not a youth. Thank you.
Doctor, well, fine.
I think that's a very, very interesting novel take on the essential definition of what youth means. And if we could hear what Esperance has to say, and then followed by Robert on this matter.
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting dimension. Many times we choose our careers on the basis of what my parents want. Have this notion where Africa has this white collar job notion. But it's okay, we work with money. That is very true. But one thing I always say is that we should not, work because we want to achieve, but we should work because we want. What do you want to overcome? What do you want to make a change in the globe? What do you want to see happening around? Another thing, when a youth wants to go in line with their interests, in line with what they love, they're always trying because this is not something marketable. This is not something that people can perceive as how do I say this? Something that people can say that this is actually workable. But one thing we should do is do what you love. That way you never have working day of your life. You definitely do everything you're doing, knowing that I actually love what I'm doing and I know it's gonna achieve something. And one thing for sure is that we never get to do the same thing. But just like the communal thing we had earlier mentioned, we never get to be this. But not all of us will be lawyers, not all of us will be doctors. And eventually, by the end of the day, we still need these fashion designers, we still need these musicians. So every career is actually essential, every career is important. You know, we should kill this notion that for you to make it in life, you need to have this white collar job. We can all make it at different levels, different career lines, and you should not shun your dreams because probably a question someone would ask is how do you go about it? For me, I'm a student doing environmental science. I'm also a fashion designer, and excuse me, and I'm also working with the youth cafe. You know, you can actually do this if you just put your mind to it. So if you love what you do, number one, you definitely go by it. And number two, if you put in all your effort because you want to achieve a goal, a certain mission, you definitely also go by it. So do what you love and what you'll never regret your entire life. And for in terms of resources, yeah, that could be actually an issue that many would say, how do I go about my passion? Because it needs a lot of investment. No one, Rome wasn't built in a day, so definitely it's a step at a time. Uh, just look for every small facet you can get. Figure out your way. We have the internet right now, we can get answers to everything. So we don't have the excuse of I really don't know how to go about it. We have examples like the really well made out youth over here who've made it before in the same lines, which we can always borrow a leaf from and see that they did it this way. How would I go about my own? And yeah, not relent. The most like we know unemployment is an issue. So one thing that my father always tells me, your degree might really not take you anywhere. Well, that is true and not true in both dimensions because it will take you somewhere if you know you make it and by luck you get to doing your degree. But many are cases we've had of people having degrees and masters and PhDs, but not doing what they actually studied. So have as many dimensions as you can. Just like she studied medicine and she's now, a founder of an NGO. The many things like just go like a web, try everything you can, as long as you know you're sure you can try it that way. Whichever comes your way, go for it. Now that way we'll kill the issue of unemployment because we'd have diverse fields. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for that take, for talking about um, following your dreams, following what you love, and being able to do multiple things in your life. Your life does not need to be summarized in one particular thing, but let it be something you love and not regret. If we could hear from Robert, then followed by Roik.
Thank you so much. I really liked the points other panelists have been making. Um, I will base my point to what Dr. Lonzen said. I think at this time we need to be, youth need to be like positive disruptors. We need to have this positive mindset of disrupting the old conventions and stereotypes that belong to our communities. And yeah, as Dr. Lonzen said, uh, we should stop or refuse to have these conservative old mindsets that are there to just ruin our communities. So we should have this positive disrupting mindset so that we can do this. Thank you.
Thank you very much for emphasizing that and for creating the positive disruptors that are our attendees of the Zoom call. And shall we move on to Doik?
Yes, please. By starting with what Dr. Lonzen have said, I believe let me believe that we are having youth here, not let me believe that we are having real youth, not those who are pretending to be youth. Yeah, let me hope that we are inspiring the real youth. Well, so I will more focus on one thing, which is college. As African youth, we really need college to take charge of our destiny. And another thing, we need to change our watches. Like I don't know which kind of watches we as African youth we are using because it seems like we are going backwards instead of going afterwards. Like instead of focusing to the future, I think we all have to change our watches because the future is ours, whether we accept it or not, and we have to start it by now, and we have to start it together because as Mr. Chris have said, we are sharing the same problems. We have the same problems as those in Nigeria or Ghana or whatever. So we need first and foremost the courage to take charge of where we are going, and we should start by now by changing our watches, which are going to tell us that we need to be in action right now. We are not going to wait because we don't know how long we are going to wait. So we have to start by now by pushing, and it is now. Time is now to do what we have to do. We have to start by where we are now in our society by implementing such kind of changes that we are willing to see in the future. Because in case like we reach in this position like in 10 or 15 years coming, if you haven't tried to change something in your society, I don't believe that you're going to plan to change it in those early ages. So that's why you have to start right now with that courage of sacrificing everything that might be needed. Or for example, I've been telling my friends that if we need security, for example, we need stability in our regions, or we will need also to sacrifice. We also know that there is a certain sacrifice that is going to come from us. So if we work together, I might reach there, or you might leave me behind, but you keep pushing and you reach there. So that's why we need to go together and reach there together. Yeah, that's my point. We really need courage to stand and fight for our future. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lake. Yes?
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much, Lake, for this inspirational account. And as for where we take this discussion, given our time constraints and the fact that we've received a couple of questions from the audience, I feel like this should be a good time to address some of the questions that have been asked. One of them being, I've heard what the panelists have said, and I do believe it requires initiative to be able to bring forth solutions and prosperity. However, I wonder whether it is quite feasible for some African nations to take the steps to tackle the current issues when there are extractive political and economics institutions that can impede the changes that the youth would like to make. It is not important for the community to have a conducive environment to bring about these changes. Is it not important for the community to have a conducive environment to bring about these changes? Is the question asked by Adetola Saizunu. So the floor is open to anybody who would like to tackle that question.
Yeah, I think, can I come in?
Yes.
I think for me, thank you so much, Doctor, for throwing it back to us. But I think for me, everything it is possible. Nobody doesn't want to associate with people with right mind and right attitude. It becomes a challenge when we want us to be seen like, angels, yet what we do doesn't reflect what we want to be seen as. I mean, every government wants to see their young people flourishing. No matter what, out of those, 1,000 that are not making it, those who will stand out, you will see them in the community. So whether you are aware, I would be clear that, we should stop blaming what we go through. I mean, if we want to make a change, I think the only thing we need to do right now or in future is to stop blaming what we don't have, and we actually forget to focus on what we have. You have the opportunity to actually get the right knowledge for you to influence the set. You're not getting it. You have the opportunity to work on your attitude, to be the best youth in the community. You have the opportunity for you to be, exposed to a bigger world. But because we spend most of our time, thinking on things that are not helping us and start criticizing what is being done, we end up starting to blame our government. And I think I have seen that more, especially into our African young people. But every time you stand out, everyone wants to associate with the right mind. So if we change the way we look at, our government are going to embrace it. Are going to embrace us. Thank you so much.
All right.
Can I say something?
Yes, jump in.
I agree with him, but it also takes a tremendous amount of courage to stand for something you believe in. I'll give you an example of my personal life. When we had begun and we saw that we were impacting many more lives, I had an encounter with the soldiers, and they're like, "You're the girl causing chaos among these girls, telling them they can go to school, telling them." And I was actually at gunpoint. It was so serious that they actually put me on gunpoint for choosing to stand with the girls and telling them, no, these girls have to go to school. But even that could not move me to stop doing the right thing. So I guess what I'm trying to say is sometimes when you speak out, not many are going to like what you're saying, but it shouldn't stop you from saying the truth. You've got to stand on what you believe in. Like the president said, it takes courage. You've got to be extremely brave and courageous to make a difference. You've got to sacrifice. And even if that means you deal with some critics, it's going to be worth it when the change comes.
Thank you very much for that. Is there any other of our panelists that would like to tackle the question?
If I would say something.
Yes.
In my perspective, we might see all the possible hindrances that are there. Yeah, they are there. They can't really get invisible, but we can sort of try and close our eyes and just go for what you want to achieve. Because yes, we are, for instance, I'm in Kenya, and I think, okay, this is going to be hard because of my government policies, because of the existent barriers, but we are fighting in a global market. We should stop, narrowing down our mindsets from only Kenya and Africa, make it more global, because we are competing internationally, and there's really no way we do this in Kenya alone. If we want to achieve whatever, just like you had earlier said, you do your thing, I do my thing, and eventually we achieve. So the moment we start thinking of it in terms of the global scope, you'd feel the pressure, the good pressure that I actually need to do something. And that way you try and avoid all the possible hindrances, go for what you want, go for what you love. And yeah, work locally, think globally. You'd only think globally by using the net. Like I'd said initially, we're all in a virtual world. So right now, like we are here from different countries of the globe. So we can get to learn from each other, see what Uganda is doing, see what Rwanda is doing, try and see if we can implement that in a local perspective. So we can only implement locally, but we can think in terms of the global perspective.
Thank you very much for that. Anybody else?
Let me add something, just very short.
Yes.
I think that the youth are against a common saying that says that youth is wasted on the young. And the issue here is that the advantage that the young people have is that time is on their side. So if the people that they say stand in their way against the change they want to make, those people are on the losing side already because time is against them. So there's the advantage of time. Number two, time can only be of value when you start. That is the adage of time was wasted on the young. So the time is wasted on the young when you don't start. But when you start, then time is an opportunity for the young. So start with what? That is the question. As I began, I said that the youthfulness has to be a certain value system. And this value system has to reject a prior value system. And we have a situation where if we have every young person who is in leadership, and leadership That does not mean having an official position somewhere. Being in leadership means ascribing to a certain value system. And wherever you are, in all your actions every day, you ascribe and promote certain value system. That means you are in leadership. And the more you have a critical mass of young people doing this, the more this value system of the young people will come in confrontation with the old value system. And that change will come faster, because the more the young people behave in a conservative manner as the old people do, the more this change will take longer to be achieved. So as long as the young people integrate themselves in the old value system I talked about, this change will take much longer. In fact, even the young people will come and they will practice the same value system that they replaced. But if they begin this new value system of what I just said, what youthfulness should mean, and they begin practicing that, that means they've started, their leadership has started. They're not waiting for positions to make change happen. So they are leading where they are, and they're influencing minds, and they're creating a value system that is going to force the old value system to get out of the way sooner than it would otherwise do. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I think this idea of leadership being a value system, similar to the idea that being a youth is ascribing to also a certain value system, marries very well with this idea that you need to be a positive disruptor, or need to be proactive, as it is your own accountability that will determine how well you do and serve this community that we're trying to help. Thank you very much for that. Any other comments?
Yeah, can I come in a little bit to compliment on my sister from South Sudan? What she just mentioned, what happened to her, from what I said. And sometimes we tend to look at the big names, and she reminded me of the statement that Nelson Mandela made, and of course I think even Lincoln mentioned it. They are almost similar. He said that it is an ideal, and I want to marry it with your vision. If your vision is small and you're not ready to die for it, then you can easily throw it away or leave it, But when you recall what Mandela said, that it is an ideal for which I hope to live for and to see realized, But my Lord, if it needs be, it is an ideal I am prepared to die for. So the great visions that we have, if we are not ready to die for it, and you better live it, and change your perspective, the way you look at things. But if we develop our visions, that you can cry, when think about your vision, then we are ready to move on. That's why you actually did it. No matter how you are, gun pointed, you are ready to move on. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for that. If before we move on to another question from the audience, is there any final comments that anybody would like to make? By that, I serve that we can move on to another question. Before we do so, I'd like to announce that our very cherished panelist, Achai Biong, is going to have to leave us a bit early, but that's okay. We will carry on the discussion. But we thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Very, very welcome. Before you do so, there's a question addressed to you. How does Bootless, and in Bootless, in a sense of how the organization is perceived by the generation in power, how does a bootless youth start? This person says this with knowledge that their dispersed opportunities, when brought together, would help us affect change we look forward to impact. How would you look at that?
I didn't understand the question.
How does bootless youth start? How do you regardless of what we are viewed as by the population in power, how do you begin to impact change as a youth, I think is the question that is being
Okay.
asked.
Like I said, it starts with investing in yourself. If you invest in yourself, there's no way the world will fail to recognize or notice a character that is well invested in. Invest in yourself. Listen to people that have done it before. See how they've done it. Look at people who have done what you want to do and have done it successfully. Learn something from their character and invest it into yours, and then stand for what you believe in. Strongly stand for what you believe in, because like I said, you're going to face critics, you're going to face judgment, but the thing you want to impact, the change that you want to bring, should be the main focus. That's all you should see at the end of the day. I want to bring this change. It doesn't matter what I go through. This has got to come through me and my team and the people that are inspired by my life.
Thank you very much. And because this question also complements the question that was being asked, what are the most critical changes that we must make as youth to face the future effectively? And again, this is open to all our panelists to tackle.
I will leave for the young people to start.
Thank you very much for that.
I think this time we should go to the elders.
Yes. I mean, with the understanding of a value system of youth, I mean, it could be anybody at this point. I mean, in my opinion, Mr. Lonzen, you're a youth yourself.
Well, I used to be not long ago. Yeah. I think that you young people at the individual level and also at the collective, which is organization. So if you identify yourself as someone who would like to challenge themselves with a new set of values that you wish to see in society, then you'll find others, similar-minded people, and you can begin to enlighten others on why it is important to change the value system of the society that you are part of. And today we have paid a lot of attention to the young people who are physically present in Africa, but we have many young Africans in the diaspora. And I think it is important that we tackle something to do with the diaspora. And the Africa, it should be in the minds of people, whether they are in Africa physically or not. So what you can do for Africa should be, if you are thinking about Africa, if you are physically present in Africa, your urge to do something about Africa is ever present, because the consequences are first and foremost, you are facing them. If you are far away, then you need at least to have a certain psychological connection to the continent. And so the young people in the diaspora, I think, also need to feel like they are part of this continent, and to feel like they can be part of this community that we are trying to build. And so I think it is important, before we leave here, that we talk about, when we are building this community, that we have young people who are outside the continent, and they shouldn't be there because they've run away from something wrong in Africa. So yeah, and they can be in Africa. We want them to be in Africa, whether they are physically or psychologically in Africa, but we want them to be in Africa. And it is very important for building this community that we're talking about of Africa. So I wanted to bring that up, because I don't want to feel that people are left out. and all the people who feel that they are outside the continent, maybe to feel like they are survivors who have, run away from a problem. I think that they can be part of a solution as well. And the most important thing is when you look at, I think one of the countries that does very well is Israel. Israel urges its people to be Israelis wherever they are. They don't need to be physically present in Israel to be of value to Israel. So I think they coined that term of the psychological return to Israel. So it wasn't encouraging people to return physically to Israel, but it was to have that psychological link with Israel and being part of building Israel. And I think that Africans can learn something from that, and that wherever you are as a young person, you don't feel disconnected from the continent because of your physical distance, proximity. So this, you can psychologically be very much active and of value to the continent and to the community that is being built.
Thank you very much for the beautiful words and the ask for the engagement of the diaspora as well. It's a very important conversation that needs to be had as well. Thank you. Any further comments on the question that has been asked?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
Can I come in?
Sorry? Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so thank you. I think the question is really clear, and he says that what are the main change would you make to see the current traditional education system to the better influence the values of young people? I think when you look at our basically Rwandan educational system, he's critically really asking on how can they change them. You know, I think for me, I'd actually repose the question into the way that we have seen so many people who went through the education system and they have done tremendous job into the transforming the society and the continent. I mean, sometimes what we are talking about right now here, I think are the values that you uphold as an individual that are going to take you to another level. I would really bring back the other example of our president and the people that fought together. I don't think they were very much educated with degrees from Harvard and Princeton, but they had something they were ready to die for, that prepared them to be able to do extraordinary things that the whole world did believe in. So if you and I start thinking, in the big perspective of how can we transform our community, ourselves, really, because it has to start from within you to be able to be seen and people, because unless you have people that are influencing, then your leadership is going to be in vain. So how is your idea, how is your vision is going to cause so many people follow you? So that has to be worked on before we start blaming the education system. But again, it is important for us to have the necessary skills to be able to tackle on the 21st century demand. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Any other comments?
Yeah, I comment. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Well, I will add something. I think there is nothing wrong with Africa. Instead, there is everything wrong with people on Africa. And I guess, why am I saying this? If there is something that we have to change as youth, as Diakite have asked, if there is something most critically that we have to change, it is this one. Africans, mostly we, when I'm saying Africans, I say I, when we don't try to invest in ourselves. Instead, we are trying to invest in our status, instead of investing in our people. When Africans try to come up, Africans try to push back. And this is something that we have to change. We have to instead support one another. And this is what Mr. Ronzen have said, Dr. Ronzen have said, sorry. We have even to involve even diasporas to be part of us. Africans have to work together. And we have to brand Africa. And that's why I have started saying that there is nothing wrong with Africa. Instead, there is everything wrong with Africans and people on Africa. Africa is good on itself, and people on it, we are having a lot, and we still have, I will go with the quote that once our presidents have said that where others are working for us, we have to learn. Africa still have a lot of things to learn at, because the way our continent is right now, it is not the way that we are dreaming to have it as how it is today. So we want an advanced society. We want an advanced community of Africans, and it is going to start by us. It is going to be done by us, not anyone else from outside of the continent. So Africa needs us. It needs us, and we have to work as brothers and sisters, since we have seen that all our problems are the same. And I don't know why we get this confidence. I always tell my friends that we should stop laughing as Africans and instead plan to laugh, because we are not yet in the time of laughing, because we are laughing in what others have implemented in our continent, and we are seeing it in different countries. That's why we should stop laughing and plan to laugh. Okay, so we should take charge. That's what I can say on this point. Thank you.
Beautiful, thank you. Any other comments?
Yeah, thank you so much. If I would like to, I would like to add from what Drake just said, like taking the ownership and being responsible. I would like to say that if we are the agents of the change we want to see in future, it's therefore necessary for us to start being part of the decision-making process, which is really a key point that we should raise, because if there are some of the decisions that are going to affect us in the future, whether be in education, whether be everywhere in different sectors of life, I think it's therefore for us today to start being part of the decision-making process. I don't mean leaders to be leaders. I mean taking the ownership to ask what is being done for you, taking the ownership, ask leaders good questions, hold them accountable for today, and because at the end of the day, we're going to be affected tomorrow, whether be positive or negative. And also, as Doctor said, it's not only, this point is not for only people, all the youth in Africa, also those Africans that are outside Africa can also be part of the decision-making process, give their ideas that are going to help them in future to build the good foundation they want. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. And I think this marries very nicely with what Mr. Lonzen was talking about, and his definition of leadership as ascribing to a value system, and how it is less of a matter of position, but more of a matter of how much involvement and positive disruption, if I may, a certain individual does or has. And especially nowadays with social media and our abilities to be able to know a lot more with the internet and whatnot, it's very easy for us to hold people accountable, or at least make our voices heard when we want to hold people accountable for what they're doing. But it all starts with our personal involvement. Thank you very much, Robert, for that. Are there any other comments before we move on to our last segment of the day? I think we can say that we can thank everybody who has come, who has shown up, and allow the attendees, the audience, to if they have any comments or any last minute quick fire questions to ask. There's a raise hand button that you can press that will allow us to allow you to talk, and you're able to either make a comment or anything. And now I see one person that has done so. Mr. Antoine Rudasigwa, I'm going to allow you to talk. Mr. Antoine? Okay. There might be some technical difficulties. All right, they will get back to us. But if there's anybody in our audience that would wish to make a comment or anything, there's still open time. And if there's anybody in our panelists group that would like to give a final comment, and let's say give let's say a quick summary of maybe what they've gotten from this discussion or what they would like our attendees to keep once they leave this discussion, the floor is all yours.
Let me go first. My final remark that I would like to pass out is that shaping our future as East African youth, we require massive efforts, to be sincere. And mostly in all sectors. I don't mean in any one sector of life, but in all sectors of life, where we should start from, and this should literally start from our minds, as we said. Most of the speakers pointed this out, that it should start from our mindset and our attitudes. This will allow us to have results, profitable results in future. And I would stick to the point of having an ending mind. Mostly having an ending mind helps us, like, bringing the future to present. Like, you try to bring what is going to be, what you want to be in future, and you bring it to the present. That is goes with having an ending mind. That would really help us to bring the future to ourselves. So it's high time we start now and be responsible for the change we want. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Robert. Any other final statement?
Let me say something as well. I think as young people, you have time to reflect, really think about yourself and what you want to be, your contribution in life. So once you know that and know the value system, what things do you value? And once you identify those things, connect yourself to a purpose. And if after reflection you find that your aspiration is to steal money, connect to that purpose. It is there, that option is there. If your ambition is another ambition of building a community, you find like-minded people there and be connected to that purpose. But it all starts from you. You think, be introspective and think about yourself. And once you've thought about yourself and the values that you stand for, then try to connect, make connections, link yourself to a purpose beyond yourself, to the community, to see that those ideals and values are manifested in other people's lives as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I think, I don't know if I copied your notes, but we kind of have almost the same point. I think I have three things that I just need to, end with. One, is to identify you as an individual, what makes you cry, what something you don't want to see, you know, and then if you identify something you're ready to cry for and die for, and you know, define it very well, go to what Dr.Lonzen said, find the like-minded people, you know, and then learn how to prioritize it. What is the priority? What should I go first with? And then, because you can't start from the end, as my brother Robert said, you need to understand the end in mind, you know, and then what should I start with so that I get where I want to be, so that I stop these tears that are in my heart that people can't see, but it's in me that, you know, that I can't wait to see coming to reality. So when you identify that and identify the like-minded people, then you are, and then you know the steps to follow, then we are good to go. That's it.
If I can come in, my final words would be do what you love, go for what you want. I mean, definitely there are gonna be challenges along the way, but one greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way we would succeed is always just to try one more time, you know. Being a youth comes once in a lifetime, but it's a really wonderful thing. It's the best time to become rich, and it's also the best time to become poor. So the one thing I'd say to my fellow youth is go for it and do your thing. You know, possible issues here and there, but we can still make our way through it. For instance, International Youth Day is coming soon in August 12th. Yes, we might be locked down inside, but there are so many things you can do online. There's so many opportunities you can get yourself on the net. Get a platform, get yourself a space, get yourself an online social media platform. It doesn't have to start from the top, because we don't make it just a click of a finger. But we can start gradually by joining some webinar, listening in somewhere, getting good content from social media, you know, to avoid issues such as mental health, which we go through. Look for positive content, and eventually you'd get your to the place you want a step at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the inspiring words. And to close us off, I could ask Roik to give the final words.
Thank you so much. I'll also start with a comment. I will start with bad news. The bad news is that time is flying, but also the good news is that we are the pilots, and we are really coming for what we are dreaming of. So since the good news is that we are the ones, or we are the pilots of this time, I will promise that it's not going to stop from here, and we are ready, and we have started this journey to end it, not to stop it. Many among other programs that we are preparing, it is not going to stop from here, because like attendees who are listening to us, we are planning to broaden such kind of umbrella. We want to see all of us together under one umbrella of transformation, empowering, and changes. We are planning hard, and we are trying to get in contact with as many Africans as possible to launch some initiatives, to start some change initiatives, to start some motivating initiatives in their society by themselves. So we have to accept that we are the future, and we are not going to learn from it. We have to go for it instead and work for it. And it is going to start by now. It is not going to start tomorrow or next tomorrow. It will start by now, like how we are doing this, which brings me to a point that I really thank and appreciate the panelists and each and everyone who gave us time to be part of us. It was really inspiring, and this empowers to keep pushing and planning more for the Africa. So far, no matter what is going to cost us, we sacrifice everything that we have so far to push and reach to our dream, to what we are planning, because there is an Africa that we are dreaming for, and we can't stop just from dreaming. We have to wake up and work on those dreams daily. So thank you so much, where you are, whether Kenya or South Sudan or whatever. Keep pushing, and probably one day, since now we are live probably one day we're gonna meet in a place live, and we just enjoy and laugh, because today we are planning to laugh. Remember, we are planning to laugh. Please don't laugh. Start planning to laugh. Yeah, thank you so much. We hope to keep in touch with you guys. We are planning more, and we are looking for your advices. We are looking for your partnerships. I guess this is a start, not an end. Thank you so much. Can't wait to see you all.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you.
Thank you for the platform.
Thank you for the words of wisdom. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for everything. Thank you for everyone that came, that tuned in, that gave their time for us. And we will see you again. Please follow us in our journey as Signboard of Youth Destiny on Instagram, on Facebook, everywhere. We're trying to push forward, and we urge you to do the same. Be a youth that you're proud of. And as our president said earlier, ask yourself what kind of youth you are. Thank you very much.